Hello, I'm Toycat, and happy Halloween, everybody! Today we're going to be talking about the spookiest thing of all, which is death and life expectancy. Most people see life expectancy as being a fixed figure. People will live to 83 or 79 or 77. However, that doesn't keep in mind the fact that if you're 76 already, what is your life expectancy now? Most of us are not, your life expectancy at birth is important, but most of us weren't just born yesterday, you might say, and so knowing your actual life expectancy for a given age is something really important to know. It's quite a complex thing to dive into, and insurance actuaries actually use this information to work out when you're going to die, which makes it mathematically as true as we can get, because people bet a lot of money that you probably won't die when you're age 7, but you probably will die when you're age 100. Your odds are 34% at that point. So let's talk about how this all works in between here and there, and how you can not die if that's something you're interested in. I guess if you want to die, good news, this video is sponsored by death. That's right, I'm actually raising awareness for death right now. Not enough people know how cool it is. Seriously, we live our lives as if like, oh yeah, don't worry about death, it's just coming sometime later. No, death is important. You should think about it now, you should think about it in the past, and you should think about it in the future. Speaking of past and future, everyone knows the general trend that life expectancy has been going up over time. Men and women, the gap is slightly closing, but in general, for both sexes, for every point of the society, life expectancy is slowly drifting upwards, from 70 40 years ago to close to 80 now, or from 76 close to a decade ago to closer to 83 now. Wow, humans are living so much longer, and this graph is a great way to prove it. On the left axis, we have share of individuals surviving to a given age, then on the bottom axis, we have the actual age. So, as you can see, in the year 1851, only 50% of people made it to age 45. Therefore, the life expectancy was 45, whereas now, in 2011, every second person survives to age 84. And that sounds like, life expectancy has gone up 40 years, but in reality, what that is a lot of people just died very young. Only 70% of people made it to their 10th birthday in 1851, whereas now, 97% will see their 15th birthday. Oh wait, their 50th birthday, sorry. Which is really nuts when you think about it. We've removed so many sources of mortality that basically the only way to die in those ages is to have a super rare disease, or to have a terrible accident, or to deliberately kill yourself, right? Like, it's very hard to die before you hit 50s and 60s, and then the body starts to degrade at a pretty rapid rate, because no matter, again, like if you look at all of these points, it's pretty crazy how different life is for the first 60 years, but even though life expectancy has gone up, the odds of you surviving past 80 or 85 or 90 has still gone drastically down, because the human body does have constraints. Or maybe we haven't solved those constraints, but right now the human body has a serious bottleneck, and that is living past 80, mostly because there's no economic interest in you living past 80. Quite bad, you could say, for society. However, like I said, although 97% of people make it to age 50, that doesn't change your life expectancy very much. It's more interesting to look at life expectancy not as a when will you die, because God knows when you're going to die. You could live to 100, you could die tomorrow. But the more important fact is, what are your odds of dying? And so when you are 0, everyone has a life expectancy of you're going to make it to exactly 83. This is the graph everyone always shows off is life expectancy at birth. 100% of people live to age 0 because we consider life to begin at that exact moment, it seems. And so as a result of that, you can tell very clearly that as time goes on, your odds of surviving past 83 or past 84, then actually your odds are going up, because slowly but surely, you're living through more years where you could have died. Even though only, 20% of people have died before 73, the fact that you weren't one of them increases your odds of making it past 84. And so that's where this table comes in. A third of people die in their first year. We do still have infant mortality, sadly or happily, depending on how you view children. But then you can see that once you really make it past the first couple of years, your odds of dying are really, really low. Seriously, it has to be an accident or something. We have such good ways to care for children because, I guess it was in our interest to do so. And then the only time it starts to peak up is when you hit your teenage years. Some would say this is because you're doing more silly things, but you are starting to partake in more activities. You're less few as a child, and also your body can start to break if you have those rare diseases. And so you have about a 1 in 5,000, right? 1 in 5,000 chance of dying when you're 17. In the next 12 months, if you're watching this and you're a teenager or in fact, if you're age 15 all the way up to age 25, your odds of dying are 1 in 5,000. After that, they drop to 1 in 3,333. At age 30, your odds of dying are 1 in 2,500. And then, as you can see, things slowly go up. 1 in 1,000 at age 40, 1 in 500 at age 50, 1 in 200 at age 60, and now you can start to see the stacking effect. As you get older, the problems you have through life, they start to build up. They don't generally go away. Maybe you gain an extra 5 pounds of weight every year. Eating overeating very slightly is a very small thing, but over 20 years, that's 100 pounds extra, which can add extra stress to your heart. I don't know. I'm not going to claim to be a cardiologist, but like all these decisions and all these lifestyle things, plus your body isn't getting any younger, and so as a result, your odds of dying just slowly build up as your functioning stuff starts to maybe get slightly weaker, and your not functioning stuff starts to get closer and closer to bad things. When you hit age 68, your odds of dying next year are 1 in 100. There is a 1 in 100 chance that people age 68 will not make it to their 69th birthday. And, because this is Halloween, I'll make this dark and say, so do you have a grandparent who's age 68? 1 in 100 chance you don't see them next year. So go speak to them now, or don't, depending on if you like them. But, you can see that, this gets real serious. About age 75, it's 1 in 50. And so here's the most important tipping point. Once you hit your 80s, your odds of dying each year are, they're sizable. It's to the point where this is why you can be fairly certain that over the next 10 years, you'll probably die. Even if you make it to 80, your odds of dying in the next 4 years aren't 50-50. In fact, it's 4%. It's like 20%. You have a decent chance of making it past 84, but your odds of making it past 90 are really low. However, for each year you don't die, you have, again, it's like rolling a dice. You're rolling, you're rolling a D50 or a D25 at this point. Then you're rolling a D20. Then you're rolling a D18 and a D10, and you're slowly getting dice with fewer and fewer numbers. Where if you roll a 1, you instant die until you get to about age 100, where it's just assumed there's like a 1 in a third chance. You are dying inside there somewhere. One of your organs is screaming out and is about to die, and we just don't know about it yet. And so the interesting thing here, to my opinion, is the fact that men and women have different ages. So this was women's age, I should mention, that okay, that's kind of fun. If you look at it for men, there's a really interesting difference that you'll see, and that is the huge uptick. So it's the same age until you get to 17. If you're a young man watching this video between 15 and 30, instead of your chance of dying being 1 in 5,000, it's 1 in 2,500, jumping up to 1 in 2,000. There are just so many more ways for men to die. Some of that is down to choice, and actually I guess ultimately you could argue it's all down to choice, but there's a lot of activities you can partake in, and it leads to much higher death risks until you can see that instead of 34% of dying at age 100, it's 38%. It's these tiny percent risks that mean that you might not make it to the next year, and then after that you might not make it to the next year, that you really should be watching out for. And so what is your life expectancy? You take your current age, and you can basically work out that if you're age 20, it's probably close to the national average, because most people don't die in those ages. But as you make it past each additional decade, your odds of living past the life expectancy limit go up significantly, and that is something you might not have known. Also, something really quite interesting, because we're talking about death anyway. This is one of my favorite little tables, for real. Right now I'm 27, so if I was a woman, my odds of dying would be 1 in 3,300. Because I am not a woman, as far as everyone knows, my odds are 1 in 1,800. Man, that is more. That is double, right? That is nuts to say. And then next year, my odds of dying take a little creep up. Obviously, these are rounded, so it's not as much of a creep as you might assume. But every year, I'm going to go skiing next year. And, maybe because I think I'm so good at skiing, I'm going to do a little bit more than I did this year. And maybe I break an ankle. But maybe, instead of breaking an ankle, I fall over the cliff and now I'm gone forever, right? So that's something that increases each year. Also, I think this is important to reference because during COVID, I don't talk about it too much on this channel because my view is very different to that of the orthodoxy. But during COVID, we had this 2-year period where we're like, yep, there's only one way we can stop COVID, and it's locking down inside. And that's despite the fact that as early as November 2020, we knew the factors that increase your risk. It was age, it was being a man, it was having an underlying heart condition. Admittedly, you can't solve these 3 things. There is no way, I guess being a man, you could, depending on how you count that one, you can't solve most of these things. But the biggest factor after that was being overweight or obese. And then also smoking. Doing things that harm your lungs would make you more susceptible to a lung disease. We had an issue where too many people went to the hospital, and rather than saying, okay, nationwide exercise campaign, you know, we're gonna work this out as a country, we're like, nah, we're gonna, like, it's crazy, because as a society, we know exactly what kills people, right? But we look at that and we say, that's not pleasant to think about. And it's like, no, you need to be thinking about this table. You need to be thinking about the fact that, like, yeah, you know what, cancer is your odds of dying to cancer or heart disease are 55%. That's why so many people die. If you can reduce the risk of those two things, that's a pretty cool thing. Reducing the risk of stroke and, I don't think you know, like, dying in a car accident is like the 5th biggest cause of death. Maybe, you know, like, we'll try and work out how you can avoid these big old risks, huh? And so yeah, as a result of that, I figured there's one thing more than anything else you can do to reduce your risk of death. Obviously, everyone knows, reduce your risk of dying to cancer or heart disease, but those are very vague targets. Like I said, even the whole, if I mention exercise, it's like, well, to some people, exercise might put you at higher risk in some places, or, you know, like, there are different, everyone has a different body in that way, but there's one thing which is guaranteed, and that is your job. There are some jobs that are just more risky than others, and the highest death rate for any job, this is in the United States of America, comes from OSHA if I'm not mistaken, the highest risk of death is if you're a fisher or related fishing worker. 99.8 of every 100,000 full-time workers die every single year doing that. 1 in 1,000 of them die every year. If you work for 50 years, you've got a 1 in 20 chance of dying. It doesn't quite work out that way, but you see the point there. Aircraft pilots and flight engineers, I'm surprised to see quite high up there. Logging workers, roofers, refuse and recyclable material collectors. Like, there are lots of jobs that you can do that will increase your risk of dying, and maybe, just maybe, if you don't do those, and if you avoid these, and even crazier, if you can avoid these, then you... What is pedestrian death? Surely that should be a road accident. Like, I'm a pedestrian. Am I a pedestrian inside my house right now? I think I am. Drowning, motorcycling is really, really low, huh? Drowning is... I don't know how more people drown than die to motorcycles. That, surely the road accident must cover... That motorcycling must include, like, yeah, I did something dumb off the road and died. Because otherwise... And anyway, you get the point here. There is a lot of fun to be had when it comes to death. And if you think about it now, then you won't have to... I feel like this is the thing, right? Everyone who thinks like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about death until you're close to dying or someone near you dies. And so this is your reminder, think about death more than you do right now. We all need to come to terms with it at some point. And if you come to terms with it now, you'll be in a better place. I know my odds of dying in the next year are 1 in 0.06%, which means I need to do my risky stuff now, because otherwise next year the risk of dying from it will be higher. For real, there actually is a part of me that thinks that. Like, if I do, you know, like, I have a slightly faster healing rate now than I will in 10 years, I better do my dangerous stuff now when I can actually recover. But that might be what causes me to maybe contribute to the statistic. We'll find out in the future. For now, though, thank you for watching this third channel video. I hope you all enjoyed it, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye. You can see my monitor, huh? Yeah, I don't know what this I don't know what this third channel video was. It felt like it could have been a second channel one, but maybe too grim. Happy Halloween, by the way. Trick or treat. I pick treat. Give me a treat, internet. That's how that question works. Yeah, see you next time. Bye.